Aloha from the island of Kauai and happy 50th reunion. This is Francis Soberano Dinin, classmate and tour guide for the Garden Island of Kauai. Once, I asked my kumu or teacher how to correctly pronounce the island's name. Is it Kauai or Kauai? His response was, both are correct. If you say Kauai, then it means an abundance. If you say Kauai, it means to wear around the neck. So here's a short story behind the second pronunciation. The god Lono watched as the father lifted his child upon his shoulders to walk across a river. The little girl gleefully enjoyed being up on dad's shoulders, as there is no place higher on earth. Lono's inspiration was for Kauai to be a favorite place that is lifted or honored and adorned in beauty. You're looking at a view of my backyard at sunset and some pretty famous mountains in Anahola, Kauai. The shark fin-shaped mountain is called KALALAU, which means prominent. It was used in a King Kong movie, but don't call it King Kong's Mountain or Mano Shark Mountain. It is KALALAU. To the left of KALALAU is Hoku Alele, which means shooting star. At first I thought shooting stars could be viewed from that area, but later I found out that in ancient days, Hawaiians would set tree trunks on fire and hurl them off the cliffs to watch sparks fly, thus resembling shooting stars. So, ancient pyrotechnics, if you will. Where is Kauai, you may ask? Well, it's to the northwest of Oahu and it's the fourth largest inhabitable island in the Hawaiian island chain. Kauai is a pie-shaped island formed by an extinct volcano called Mount Waialeale, which means rippling waters. That red dot is where Anahola is located. Here's a few fun facts about Kauai. It is the oldest volcanic island at 5.1 million years, followed by Oahu at 3.4. Kauai's ancient name was Kauai Kuopapa, which means Kauai is the oldest. Mount Waialeale ranks as one of the top 10 wettest places on Earth, with an impressive 450 inches of rainfall each year. Waialeale posted a record rainfall of 683 inches in 1982. That was the same year that Hurricane Eva hit the island. Climate change has impacted all of the Hawaiian Islands in recent years. Wailua River is the only navigable river in the state. Over 60 movies and TV shows were filmed here. Kauai has the largest coffee plantation in the U.S., and Kauai has the most accessible beaches. Here's a fun fact, especially for Mr. Lance Luke. There are no buildings taller than a coconut tree. Kauai's building code has a 4-story limit on vertical construction. Kauai is divided into 6 moku or districts: the Napali, Halelea, Ko'olau, Puna, and Kona. Hey, were you counting? That's right, Kauai's 6th moku is Ni'ihau. Ni'ihau is known as the Forbidden Island, and it is Kauai's 6th moku. Our virtual tour will focus on the 5 moku on Kauai. Moku were further divided into smaller land divisions called ahupua'a. Each ahupua'a sustained communities living in those areas with enough resources to live on. Our virtual tour begins on the north shore of Kauai in the moku of the Napali, which means the cliffs, and we'll visit the ahupua'a of Hanakapi'ai. There's a section on each of the Hawaiian islands that is inaccessible by vehicle. The Napali is that section for the island of Kauai. You could get in by hiking, boating, or flying in. If you ever have a chance to visit the Napali coast, you should go. It's an awesome sight to behold. When I first moved to Kauai, my husband and I took a Zodiac ride in and out of sea caves along the Napali coast and snorkeled with turtles in the beautiful ocean waters. We also had a friend back then who worked for a helicopter tour company, and I got to see Kauai from the air for free. It's a breathtaking view. The Napali coast is also famous for its hiking trails. I hiked into the first valley called Hanakapi'ai. Hanakapiai is one of 7 ahupua'a in the Napali Moku. I only made it to the beach as it is a strenuous hike and I wasn't prepared. The Hanakapiai Trail is 2 miles to the beach and another 2 miles towards a lovely waterfall named for a Menehune chiefess who died in childbirth. Kauai has an abundance of stories about the legendary Menehune. Our virtual tour continues on to the moku of Halele'a. Halele'a means place of happiness. Here we'll visit the ahupua'a of Hanalei. Understand that there are several other ahupua'a to visit, and I selected only a few of the more popular ones. The ahupua'a of Hanalei translates to wreath making. Hanalei is the largest of 9 ahupua'a in the Halele'a moku. Hanalei is well known for its crescent-shaped bay with beautiful white sandy beaches and nice surfing conditions. An old pier built in 1892 still stands as a reminder of plantation days when piers were used to transport rice and sugarcane. Hanalei's pier fell into disrepair and was slated for demolition. Fortunately, the Rotary Club of Hanalei funded renovations in 2012. On sunny days, my grandson loves to jump from the pier, as do many of Kauai's children. Ka'ualoku o Hanalei, the soaking rain of Hanalei. As a canoe paddler, canoe regattas were once held in Hanalei Bay, but due to torrential rains and massive landslides, regattas were moved. Here's a few pictures I took of flood damages in Hanalei after an epic storm hit the island. I was there to help clean up damages to Namolokama's canoe hale. In April 2018, Kauai exceeded a 1979 record rainfall of 49 inches in a 24-hour period. Pictured is the taro lo'i from Hanalei Lookout. Do you know that 73% of the state's taro is grown on the island of Kauai? Most of the state's taro come from Hanalei. Hanalei has 235 acres in production year-round. On to the moku of Koloa, or northeast Kauai, and the ahupua'a of Kilauea and Anahola. Kilauea means spewing or much spreading. Kilauea is mostly known for the National Wildlife Refuge and Lighthouse. The Wildlife Refuge began in 1985 and is home to the greatest and most diverse population of nesting seabirds in the state of Hawaii. If you drive around Kauai at night, you might notice that it's kind of dark, meaning that there are very few streetlights here. Some seabird species are nocturnal. Artificial lights tend to disorient seabirds. If they land, they become vulnerable to predators like dogs or cats. I have rescued a shearwater on the roadside and taken it to an aid station for rehab and release. Kauai is the last refuge for 2 seabird species, the New Wales shearwater and the Hawaiian petrel. 90% of the world's population of these particular seabirds are located on the island of Kauai. The historic Kilauea Lighthouse was built on May 1, 1913 and placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1979. 100 years later, on May 1, 2013, it was dedicated to United States Senator Daniel Inouye, who was instrumental in raising the private and public funds necessary to restore the lighthouse. The lighthouse sits on a bluff marking the northernmost point on Kauai. Kilauea Stone Dam was constructed by the Kilauea Sugar Plantation Company in 1880. On a pre-Huaka'i trip, classmate Luana Ogie and I walked the Waikoa Loop 4.5-mile trail to Stone Dam. The trail is mostly flat, shady, and very scenic. The ahupua'a of Anahola means deadly winds. Most of Anahola is owned by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Anahola has the 5th largest concentration of Hawaiians in the state. Anahola is also the name of a mo'o, not a lizard, but a mythical animal like a dragon who once lived in this area. Mo'o legends are famous throughout Hawaii, and most mo'o were female, shapeshifters, and not all of them were friendly. Here's a famous mo'o-related story. Pele, the goddess of fire in her spirit form, or Uhanehele, was lured by the sound of hula drums coming from Kauai. She follows the sound of drums to Haena Beach, which is the ahupua'a just before the Napali Moku. She falls in love with a young, handsome chief named Lohi'au. Pele asks her younger sister Hi'iaka to bring him to the Big Island within 40 days. Hi'iaka travels to Kauai and battles several mo'o on her journey. When Hi'iaka arrives, Lohi'au is dead, but Hi'iaka revives him to fulfill her mission. Lohi'au admires and falls in love with Hi'iaka. They arrive to the Big Island after the 40-day time limit. Pele is angry and she destroys Hi'iaka's forest, her best friend, and Lohi'au. Hi'iaka revives Lohi'au a second time. The couple, Hi'iaka and Lohi'au, leave Pele's island and return to Kauai. And wait for it, and they lived happily ever after. Don't you just love it? Pictured on the roof is the state's bird, the nene. I was startled by the heavy thump-thump on my roof that I went outside my house and took this picture. Kauai has the largest protected population of nene in the state. Anahola Bay and Beach Park is minutes away from my home. Anahola Bay has a protective coral reef, shady trees, and white sandy beach. It's a nice place to take the grandkids and for social gatherings. I'm thankful for the many blessings I received living here in Anahola. On to the moku of Puna or East Kauai and the ahupua'a of Wailua and Na'awiliwili. Wailua Falls is one of the most picturesque waterfalls on Kauai, and it's very accessible. Once I even hiked down to swim in that extremely cold pond with the Sierra Club and checked out the backside of a waterfall. On the return hike, it requires that you're able to pull yourself up a steep cliff by rope. Wailua has two meanings. It could mean two waters, as there's a fork in the river that feeds into one, or it could mean spirits. It was believed that Wailua was a portal to the nether world. Wailua is also known for its heiau or temple complex dedicated as places of refuge, healing, and sacrificial offerings to gods, worshipped by Hawaiians in ancient days. There are several heiau and artifacts like petroglyphs that line the banks of the Wailua River. In ancient days, Wailua was the political, religious, and social center for Hawaiian royalty. Its full name is Wailua Nui Ho'ano, which translates as the Great Sacred Wailua. I'm highly recommending that if you want to learn more about Wailua Nui Ho'ano, there's an excellent 30-minute YouTube video that you should watch. In the YouTube search engine, type Wailua Falls 2018-0726 and look for this picture of a hula maiden. The ali'i or chiefs of Kauai were recognized only if they were born at Pohaku Ho'ohana, which is a birthing rock. A newborn's umbilical cord or piko would be carefully wrapped in kapa or the mother's hair and placed in the Pohaku piko, the umbilical stone's crevices. There were several kapu or forbidden practices in ancient Hawaii. It was believed that if the shadow of a maka'ainana or common person touched the shadow of an ali'i or royal, he would be sacrificed at one of these temples. Wailua River State Park was established in 1954 to preserve the historical, archaeological, geological, and other scientific value found in this area. The Smith's boat ride on Wailua River is something that most first-time visitors do when they come to Kauai. I was no different. On my first ever trip with the Hui Kumulipo Club at Kamehameha Schools, we took that 2-mile boat tour. Smith's guides share stories of the area, sing, and dance hula on the way up to the Fern Grotto, or Mama'akua Lono, the quickness of the god Lono. Wailua is filled with many gems like the Fern Grotto. In the past, we used to be able to walk into the grotto to admire the ferns growing upside down. But after a 2006 storm which rained 40 days and 40 nights, I kid you not, landslides in the area stopped that activity. So here's the story behind Fern Grotto. A beautiful maiden named Mama'akua Lono lived in the grotto. She declined to marry Maui, the son of the moon goddess Hina. In her anger, Hina flooded the grotto, forcing the girl to swim for her life. The maiden prayed for help from her two brothers, Kolea and Niolopua. Kolea, in his bird form, kept watch over his sister as Niolopua prayed to the god Lono. She washed up safely on the shores of Oahu and became the wife of Moku'ula. Later, she returned to Kauai to her fern-covered cave. Stories and legends like this are as abundant as the waters on Kauai. On to the ahupua'a of Nawiliwili. Nawiliwili may have gotten its name from a native tree called the wiliwili. Its flowers and pods were used for lei, and its light wood was once used for surfboards, outriggers, and net floats. Another meaning behind Nawiliwili may be due to the twisted and meandering streams in this area. Nawiliwili serves as the main harbor where cruise ships and cargo boats dock. Lihue translates as cold chill. Lihue is the capital of Kauai, and it's where the airport and Nawiliwili Harbor are located. On to the Moku of Kona, which is south and west Kauai. Here we'll visit the ahupua'a of Koloa, Hanapepe, and Waimea. The ahupua'a of Koloa gets its name from a native Hawaiian duck that was once on an endangered list up until 1978. The second meaning behind the name Koloa is long sugarcane. That's if you add the kahako over the first O. Hawaiians had names for at least 40 varieties of sugarcane. The largest, Koloa, grew up to 30 feet in height. Walter Duncan McBride, founder of McBride Sugar Company, shipped in 1,000 eucalyptus trees from Australia to landscape his massive 235-acre estate. He overestimated his needs and gifted the extra trees to the Koloa community. 500 eucalyptus trees line Maluhia Road to farm a tree tunnel on the way to Koloa. The trees are about 100 years old and the tunnel is 1 mile long. In September 2017, classmates came on an actual huaka'i to the island of Kauai, and Koloa is where we stayed. This was my first time at the Makauwahi Cave. Makauwahi translates to smoke eye. Our cave guide, Richard Sagan, informed us that a kahuna or priest would build a fire in the cave and chant while looking into the smoke to predict events. The origin of the cave's name came from a child's notebook assignment to interview a village elder. I'll be playing a 1-minute audio of Luana Ogi toning in the background. Try to listen for the echoing off the cave walls as we view a few pictures taken of our visit to this ancient site. Makauwahi Cave is the largest sinkhole in the state. This sinkhole preserved records of floods, droughts, hurricanes, a massive tsunami, the pollen and seeds of extinct native plants, and countless number of bones. The cave has been described as, quote, the richest fossil site in the Hawaiian Islands and perhaps in the entire Pacific Island region. Here's a picture of classmates at the Koloa condo. We enjoyed a yummy beef stew dinner cooked by Roland Sagum, followed by a lilikoi chiffon pie tasting contest and live entertainment by Ralph Kamai. Take it away, Ralph. In a small valley right next to Koloa is Lawai. Lawai may be a corruption of the word Lawai'a, which means fisherman. Classmates visited the National Tropical Botanical Garden, Allerton and McBride Gardens. We went for dinner and a tour and visited Queen Emma's summer cottage. The gardens are listed in the National Geographic's Top 50 Gardens to Visit in the World. On to the Ahupua'a of Hanapepe, which means crushed bay. If you look to the top right-hand corner, there's a pull-out in the road as you enter Hanapepe going west. It has a nice overlook of the valley. Port Allen is where you can board the Na-Pali cruises and catch helicopter rides. Port Allen is actually where my dad arrived on a ship from the Philippines as a plantation laborer. On the left is Salt Pond, and in the middle is Hanapepe River. Hanapepe has come to be known for its art scene. Here's a picture of classmates enjoying Friday Art Night in Hanapepe town. Hanapepe Art Night is a food lover's paradise, and if you visit on Friday Art Night, you will not be disappointed. There's lots of delicious foods and desserts to try. If you should find the taro chip factory open, go in and try their chips. It's really good. Hanapepe is also known for its salt or pa'akai ponds. Our classmate Jana Ana shared stories with us about the history and traditions involved in salt making. We were fortunate to have visited John during harvest season. John gifted us all with bags of salt to take home. Here's a few pictures of classmates on Hanapepe and Waimea swinging bridges. These wooden suspension bridges were once used by sugarcane workers to cross those rivers. A third swinging bridge is located in Kapaya, just outside of Lihue. On to the Ahupua'a of Waimea, which means reddish water. Waimea is also the Kauai name for a kind of mamaki, a native tree used to make kapa. The Waimea tree's leaves has red veins and stems. The kapa made from Waimea was coarse and heavy compared to the kapa made from Vauke, the mulberry tree. The canyon is 10 miles long, 1 mile wide, and 3,600 feet deep. The Waimea Canyon was dubbed the Grand Canyon of the Pacific by Major John Wesley Powell in 1869. This is contrary to the rumor that Mark Twain said this about the canyon. Twain never stepped foot on Kauai. If you can remember that Powell is the same guy that Lake Powell is named after, then you got the right guy. Classmates paused for picture taking at the Waimea Canyon Lookout sign. Waimea is where Captain James Cook first sighted the Hawaiian Islands and landed here in 1778. Here's a view that you get to see if you can find parking at Waimea Canyon's Lookout. It's been getting crowded with tourists lately. At the very top of this long and winding 18-mile road is the KALALAU Lookout. KALALAU means the straying or the wanderer, or KALALAU can be translated as fluted leaves. So here's the story behind this. Once there was a legendary giant named Puni who was good friends with the Menehune. Puni wandered into KALALAU and was fashioning something special for his little friends. He covered his work with a curtain of the cliffs. Unfortunately, Puni died before his work was completed. Who knows if his work will someday be uncovered. KALALAU is the largest ahupua'a of the Napali Moku. Our virtual tour for the island is now complete. Here are a few observations I made in making this video. Place names have more than one meaning. Kauai rains a lot and its landscape is changing. There are several gems awaiting discovery. Kauai shelters some unique wildlife and plants. Stories here are as abundant as Kauai's waters. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making it to showcase my island home. There's lots more to see and do here, so when it's safe for us to get together, please come by, visit, and enjoy a little bit of heaven on earth. Mahalo for watching. Hope to see you at the reunion, and a hui hou until we meet again.